Hey there, welcome to my podcast. I'm your host Roz, owner of Roz Chandler Fitness, and I'm so glad you're here. This is the podcast where I chat to local inspiring women, share insights and have real conversations. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been with us from the beginning, get comfortable, grab your favourite drink and let's dive in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the podcast. So, hello Heidi.
Hi Roz.
Welcome so much to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and I'm so excited to go through and have a little chat and catch up because it's been a little while since we've seen each other, really, isn't it?
It has. I think we bumped into each other in Whitehall Garden Centre just before Christmas.
It was all a bit manic as well.
It was. It was a bit manic, but Whitehall before Christmas is always a bit manic, right?
Yeah, it is. But it was nice to see you in the flesh and just sort of have a quick sort of catch up. But I'm really excited to just to chat to you really about what you've been doing because, oh my God, haven't you been doing amazing things? Absolutely amazing.
It's been a busy few years, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to sort of dive in. I mean, for our listeners, Heidi has produced 6 books since 2021. And I've read them all. I'm on my last one at the moment. I'm hoping there's more to come.
There is definitely more to come, yes. I've just finished book number 7. I've just sent it off to my my agent. So I don't know when that will be out, but I have finished it.
Brilliant. Well, we all look forward to that. That's fantastic. The thing that I love about your books is you pick them up and you think, oh, I'll just read a couple of pages before I go to bed and before I go to sleep. And then before I know it, half an hour's gone by and I'm a couple of chapters in because I can't seem to put them down. So whatever you're doing, keep it up because it's really, really
always nice to hear.
Good. So how did you what made you and how did you get started in what made you want to do this?
I guess it's something I've always wanted to do. So I'm nearly coming up for 52 now, and I kind of, like a lot of people, I sort of had a dream of the thing I wanted to be when I grew up, which was to be a writer of some kind. And maybe, I think when I was small, I always told people I was going to be a journalist, when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then, of course, life takes over. I had my children very young and kind of got caught up in life and family and, working, and got a job in advertising, which, was an outlet for sure for my writing skills. I still work in advertising and I do quite a lot of writing as part of that, but it was never, the thing I really wanted to do. And then lockdown happened and I was furloughed for what I thought would be 8 weeks, but actually ended up being the whole of that summer. And then I was made redundant from my job. And I kind of thought, well, if I don't write the book now, I'm never, I've been thinking about it for 20 years. If I don't write it now, I'm never going to write it. So I wrote my first novel in 6 weeks in lockdown. All of us sat in the garden. I mean, it was a lovely spring. And I wrote that book sat in the garden in the sun. So if that hadn't have happened, I don't know that I would be here. It was just a combination of for the first time in my life, really having the time.
Yeah. Oh, well done. I mean, I loved that first book. And also, I'd recommend it to anybody to read it because it kind of, even though it was it's based in COVID, isn't it?
Yeah.
And even though it is based in COVID and we've sort of now come out of that, I think I've revisited it recently because it's nice to kind of go back to that time and you think, oh yeah. Yeah, we went through that kind of thing, didn't we?
We did. Funnily enough, I reread it recently as well because I have an idea in my head about writing another book set in that same village. So not a sequel, but actually, I felt like there was much more that I could do with that. We'll talk about that later. But I reread it recently, and it's so many things that we forgot. The clapping on a Thursday night. I mean, what was that? And the kind of all queuing outside, because I wanted to write a romantic comedy about being in a village during lockdown because it was such an odd time. And actually living around here, like none of us really knew anybody that had COVID. It was all happening somewhere else. Like the drama was in our homes, dealing with kids, you know, juggling, like trying to get used to this very weird, you know, time. And I felt like the way that COVID manifested in small communities was very different from how it was happening in big cities. So I really wanted to capture that. And of course, I wrote it pretty much in real time. So, you know, the lockdown started on I think it was the 22nd of March, 2020. I started writing the book on the 1st of April, like 10 days later. So I was kind of tracking the story in real time, really, which now I think about it was madness because I didn't know what was going to happen. But it was a way of helping me sort of navigate my way through it, really. Yeah. But it feels a bit like historical fiction now.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I think we all had a little blip in those COVID years, didn't we? But I feel like now you sort of, where did those years go? Because
I know
you sort of blink and then it's like, oh yeah, well that was back in, like you say, 2020, and
now we're coming up for 5 years now. You know, a couple of months it'll be the 5-year anniversary.
I know.
How did that happen?
I know. So what would you say? Obviously, then you obviously carried on to book number 7 in production. What would you say would be the most rewarding moment of doing that so far?
You know what? It's funny because the things that you think it would be, like obviously my first book being published, I hadn't expected that. I mean, I kind of sent it to the manuscript to some agents who I didn't know, but I sort of, you know, picked a few and sent it out, and I got an agent, and then they sent it off to some publishers, and I got a book deal. And, you know, all of that was really, all of those are the things you think would be the like, and then I won an award for that first book. I won like debut romance of the year at the Romantic Novelist. I had to go pick up an award. I've still downstairs. It's like a big glass trophy. But the bit that I like makes me the proudest is my daughter sent me a picture of my book on the shelf in Waterstones in London, in Victoria in London. And it was just like when you've dreamed of being an author, like to have somebody go, look, Ma, I've spotted your book in Waterstones. I honestly smiled for about 3 days because it was just like, it was a little thing. And even now I went into Chippenham Waterstones a couple of weeks ago, my book's on the shelf. And it's like, that's a lovely thing. That feels very real. That feels very kind of like, you know, I've done something and it's out there and people are reading it, and they're reading it and people are buying enough of them that the big shops are stocking it. That's a lovely thing.
That is amazing. I think that is absolutely amazing. You should really, really be proud of what you've achieved. And the thing is, you know, the world is a weird, really weird place at the moment, isn't it? There's a lot going on, weirdness. Yeah. And just to pick up your book of a night time after a busy day, or on holiday. I love reading them on holiday. I've taken several on holiday with me, and it just takes you away from everything that's going on, and you laugh and you get hooked in. And I think whatever you're doing, obviously, you know, like I said previously, you've obviously got a really good, just a way of knowing how to write it in that sort of style.
Yeah.
And is that something you've always wanted to do, that sort of style?
Definitely. I mean, all the bits of writing that I've done over the years, particularly the journalism. So I spent a really long time sort of doing live blogs for The Guardian for television shows. Like I'd cover Strictly for years. And also like, you know, before that, kind of the X Factor and Big Brother. And it always, like, the idea was it would be funny. Like, it has to be funny. Like, you can't take these things too seriously. I don't take life very seriously. And, you know, I've had a few people say, well, yeah, have you ever considered writing crime or a thriller or kind of more of a kind of fantasy book or some of the stuff that's very popular right now? I just don't want to. I could, I guess, but I think there's probably people out there who are better at me than that kind of thing. I think where I feel very comfortable is in that kind of sort of quite light, fun, quite quirky romance where it's very much about people. It's about interesting characters and friendships and families and communities. And because, you know, when you live in the country, when you live in rural communities, like, it's full of characters, it's full of extraordinary people. And I don't think it's about laughing at them. I think it's about like seeing the kind of, like, you know, people think of the country as being kind of quite quite boring. It's not. It's full of amazing people who've done extraordinary things. And I just, I find a lot of joy in that, in a way I don't think I would if I tried to write a twisty thriller or a kind of like a horror or something like that. I think it would just make me, I don't think I would enjoy it. And I think if you're going to do anything, you're a really great example of this. You do what you do because you love it. Like, you know, and I think that feels really important to me. I don't make a huge amount of money out of being a writer. It's not where I make my money. Again, we'll talk about that later. But so I have to love it. I have to like really sit down and think, I have to make myself laugh. Like, why would you not do that?
Well, we've obviously got the right little recipe for that, and I am just very inspired by you, because, like you say, it's something you wanted to do, and you've just kind of said, right, I'm going to do this, and I think it's really important for people to follow their passions if they can, you know, because I think you do get, you know, I think it just motivates and inspires you, doesn't it, to kind of to carry on. And is that what you'd say with your sort of, does that, how do you stay creative? What does it for you?
I stay creative by, I guess, you know, I think we convince ourselves that all the good stuff that we do in our lives, we'll do in our 20s and our 30s. Like that's the time of your life when you kind of, you make it, isn't it? That's when you do all the good stuff. They're the best years of your life. No, rubbish. Like the best years of your life are the years that you make the best years of your life. I wrote my first book at 47. Like at that point in my life, I assumed my best years would be behind me, but they're not. Like, I feel like the best is still to come. I feel like I can now write from a lot of life experience. I have so much to draw on. I've lived on a boat. I've traveled the world. I've lived overseas. My parents were in the military. I've been married, got divorced. I've had 2 kids. I've like, all of these things are all things that I can draw on. I've lived in the city. I've lived in the country. I can pull on all of these things in a way that I don't think you can when you're 23. No. And so I think what keeps me creative is the knowledge that there are still a lot more stories that I have to tell. And I'm surrounded by interesting and inspiring people. And, you know, that comes with age and experience, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. So just moving away from that slightly, obviously that sounds like you're a very busy person with your job and writing your novels. Is there anything that you do yourself to sort of a hobby or a guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. So you know that Eurovision Song Contest is my guilty pleasure. It's a thing I have loved since I was a little girl. And when I worked for The Guardian as a freelancer in about 2008, I started covering Eurovision for them. And then in 2016, I started going every year as a journalist and kind of, you know, interviewing people and writing live blogs and all that kind of stuff. For the last 5 years, I think this will be my 5th year, I've actually been employed by Eurovision as a part of their digital content team. So for 2 weeks every year, I go to whatever the host city is and I do a load of work for them, kind of, stuff for their website, stuff for their social channels, interviews, like just really fun stuff. I'm not even going to call it a guilty pleasure. I'm not guilty about it. I just love it. It's a fantastic contest. It's so much fun. It's the campest thing you can possibly imagine. It's just a big party for 2 weeks. I get to hang out with Rylan for 2 weeks. I mean, why would that not be fun? He and I work on the same team for the first week, so he's fab. So yeah, I'm going to Basel in Switzerland in May this year, which is where Eurovision is going to be. So that's kind of, if I have anything vaguely resembling a hobby, it's probably getting ready for and enjoying the Eurovision Song Contest. Not something I ever imagined I would say when I was 23. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, fantastic. And I know that, I know when we've sort of spoken before that is something that you absolutely love. And again, I think, you know, to be able to do something that you love is just absolutely brilliant, because like we are older now, but why not live your life? Why not go and do these things?
Why not? I don't think we should put barriers on ourselves and say, oh no, you know, I'm too old for that, or no, but you know, I didn't have any experience in that kind of thing. I just went and, you know, knocked on some doors and and ask. Like sometimes you just have to ask and say, look, I really think I can do this. I really think I can bring something to it that you don't have, and give me a try. And what's the worst that can happen? Like people will say no, but they might say yes, or they might say, well, I tell you what, why don't you just do a couple of articles for us and we'll pay you for them, but let's see what we think. And then suddenly you're writing about Eurovision for 15 years. Like you have to, at the time when I first kind of poked my elbows into that, I was working in a recruitment consultancy in Bristol. Like I had no experience, I had no qualifications, but I thought I could do it. So I asked, and I asked several times over many months. And in the end, they said, all right, go on then, let's have a go. And yeah, so I think we sometimes put limits on ourselves and we shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It can be quite a scary thing, but like you say, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, and you say, okay, and then you try other avenues. But if you can't not try, absolutely, you've got to try it, haven't you? So obviously you're a very, very busy lady. Is there anything you do for your own wellness?
Yeah. So I mean, funnily enough, you were one of the people that really made me realize how important exercise was to my life. I don't enjoy exercise. I never have. I think there are people out there who seem to get some colossal dopamine buzz out of it. I've never been one of them. I go for a run and I just get to the end of it and I'm just, thank the Lord it's over. And I think I'd always been like that. And I kind of looked at other people and gone, what am I missing? Like, why don't I come away from it glowing and feeling like on top of the world? And I think what I did was kind of reframe it, is I don't have to enjoy it. I don't have to love the process of it. I have to be grateful for what it gives me, for what it allows me to do. I have to appreciate the fact that I can do it when lots of people can't. Like lots of people can't get up and do an aerobics class or lift, deadlift 80 kilos or, go and run on a treadmill or run outside. Lots of people can't. And so now exercise is a really big part of my life. I do a lot of weightlifting and strength training, 4 times a week. I've taken up running in the last year. I'm dreadful at it. I plod my way around a park run or I like running around here actually, because for some reason I quite don't mind running up hills, which is just as well really, considering where we live, right? But it's not about in the moment, I'm loving it. In the moment, I'm in hell. But when I finish, I'm grateful for another, that I'm a little bit stronger, that I'm a little bit fitter, that I'm looking after, I'm being kind to myself, that I have taken some time out for me. And I think reframing it in that way as appreciation rather than joy has really, really helped me to really focus on a good night's sleep feels like a kindness to myself. And I think that's really helped me to kind of give that some focus. So yeah, I am really, really busy. And because of that, I carve out as much time as I can for sleep and exercise and rest and, friends and family. But it's never enough, is it? But we do what we can do.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's amazing. Absolutely amazing that you've reframed it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna push that narrative a little bit further to some of my members. Definitely.
It doesn't have to be fun. Just appreciate it. It's showing yourself appreciation. It's showing yourself a kindness. And sometimes I'm plodding up a hill and my butt is burning and I'm going, this is kindness. This is kindness. This is kindness.
Oh, awesome. So what's next? What's next for you?
What's next for me? So definitely more books. I think I would like to continue to write. I feel like that feels like something that brings me a lot of pleasure, and it doesn't feel like hard work. It's just something I enjoy that I've somehow managed to make part of my career. I'm also not ready to give up my job. I love I work in marketing. I have done for a long time. It's challenging. It's interesting. I work with some really great people. So I think for now, I'm going to continue with the balance. I'm also getting married in April, so that's exciting. Wow. I know. So I'm busy planning a wedding at the moment. Quite a small one, but I'm busy planning that. So I've got lots of things going on. But yeah, more books. Keep going with my career. keep looking after myself. I have no big plans beyond that. That feels like a lot. And it feels like enough.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been asking all my guests some little quick fire questions, just as a bit of fun. So here we go. There's 3 questions for you. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning person or night owl?
Oh, morning person, for sure.
And your favourite travel destination?
Oh, that's a good question. Spain, I think. Northern Spain. Every year for the last few years, my partner and I have gone hiking in the Pyrenees, in the Spanish Pyrenees. So anywhere with mountains, but particularly Spain, I think you have the best of all the worlds. It's mountainous and beautiful, but it's also quite warm. So yeah, so I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna go to the Pyrenees.
And one of your books is obviously set around there, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, that's helpful. And also, like, we can drive there and take the dog. That feels really important to me. Like, if you asked Pip, my partner, that question, he would say anywhere we can drive to with the dog, because we both love traveling with our dog.
Brilliant answers. So where can our listeners find your books?
Where can they find their books? So, I mean, obviously on all the normal online places, on Amazon, they're all there. Waterstones in Chippenham has them, but they'll also order any of them that they don't have. I always encourage people to buy them from an independent if they can. So Bert's Books in Swindon is a fantastic independent bookshop, and they have signed copies of all my books. So if you ever want a signed copy, but frankly, I live in Chippenham. If any of your listeners want a signed copy, just call me, bring it round, I'll sign it. So yeah, Bert's Books is always somewhere I would encourage people to buy from, because they're amazing, and we should support our indie bookshops, but also all the other normal places.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with that. Support local all the way.
All the way.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I'm very privileged to have quite a few of your books signed. So they have quite a place on my bookcase.
Oh, that's nice. Well, let me know which ones you don't. I'll pop over. I'll come over and sign them for you.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Heidi. It's been absolutely amazing to speak to you and just to catch up. And I think, well, very inspiring, motivating, and I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, thank you, Roz.
To take the time.
It's always a pleasure.
Lovely. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Look out for our next episode, where I will be chatting to reflexologist Tracy Anderson. See you soon. And as I always say, deep breath in and you're done.